Erev Tov, good evening. Bruchim Habayim. Tonight's shiur is dedicated to Nishmat, my grandmother, Chana Bat Zohara, by my parents, Rabbi Dr. Shalom and Yudit Halevy, the Nishmata. מרחם על כל בעודה וייחוס ויחמוד ולכם הנפש רוח ונשמה של הנפטרת בשם טוב מן העולם חנה בת זוהרה רוח אדוני תלכה בגן היא וחולמות השבות מהפכה לחמים וסליחות וכן יהי רצון ונאמר אמן. Her neshama should have Aliyah Gan Eden Bezrat Hashem. Tonight's shiur is a shiur that I am dedicating to all of you. Everyone who's out there worrying about Pesach, how do we do Pesach? I've been getting messages around the clock from people. This is the first time in our life we've had to do Pesach. It's been 20 years since I last made my own Pesach. Normally I go to a hotel. Normally I go to my mother-in-law. Normally I go to... So for those who go to a hotel, I apologize in advance. You're going to have to work hard. This year, I can't make it easier than paying everybody your year's salary and going away for a hotel. For those of you who go to your mother-in-law, I don't know, I think you shouldn't be complaining. So, Baruch Hashem, this should be a happy year for you. But nonetheless, I do want to make a few things clear right at the beginning. And first and foremost is, for all of you who are joining us from outside of San Diego, Bruchim Habayim, I appreciate you being here. This shiur is a little bit longer than our usual shiur because we try to cover a lot of ground. At the end of the shiur, I will take everybody off mute and I will stay here for as long as you need for me to answer any specific Pesach questions that you might have. So if you have a question, please wait until the end and I'll be more than happy to take those questions personally. If you don't know about our online Pesach forum, so we have a Pesach Kashrut forum on Facebook. You're welcome to join there and ask your questions there also. We will try to schedule a live Q&A session sometime for Chol HaMoed Pesach. Last year's was a really big success, and I'm very much looking forward to that. But for those who are from afar, you should know there is a light at the end of the tunnel. For us, it's 7 o'clock. For you, it might be 10 o'clock or tomorrow morning already. But please be here and learn with us. And anything you may need to know in specific, I'll try to cover. But if I didn't, make sure that you wait and ask me at the end, please. For those of you in Los Angeles, normally this would be my day to give a shiur in Los Angeles and the Bedikat Chametz of my dear friend Rabbi Moshe Ben Zaken. Hashem should send him a long life and a lot of health. Rabbi Moshe has been steadfast by my side since before he knew me, and I just want to wish him a chazak baruch, briut etana. Hashem should bless him with all the strength in the world to keep doing the holy things that he's doing. And bezrat Hashem ba'et u'va'ona azot, if we're not in Yerushalayim next year, which I hope we will be, for whatever unusual reason we are not in Yerushalayim, I hope to see you all in Los Angeles next year in the Beit Knesset of my dear friend Rabbi Moshe Ben Zaken. Hashem yarich yamav u'shnotav bezrat Hashem. And last but not least, and perhaps the most important announcement of them all, tonight's shiur is me speaking off the cuff. I'm not here being politically correct. I'm not going to tiptoe around anybody else's Hilchot Pesach. I'm not going to apologize for any of the stances we have in Hilchot Pesach. Tonight is an inner community shiur, meaning this shiur is intended for those who consider this to be their Beit HaMikdash. Giving the shiur for those who, baniuti, consider themselves to be my Talmidim. I am not here to step on the jurisdiction of any other rabbis, any other Talmidei Chachamim, any other communities. If you belong to another rabbi or a different community with different halachic standards or different social standards or protocols, whatever those may be, I am not here in order to make problems for them, and I'm not here to uproot their authority. I'm only here to teach my Talmidim what I believe is our approach to halakha. There was a famous posek. Somebody once came to ask him a question on halakha. He said, Rabbi, what should I do in this situation? He said, well, what does your Rav do? He said, I don't have a Rav. He says, well, that's the problem. Go to the Beit Knesset, say, Ashamnu, Baganu, Gazanu, do vidui, that you don't have a rabbi, and then go look for yourself a rabbi and ask him this question. So for tonight, I'm answering all the questions, I'm saying all the questions, I'm teaching all the halachot, the way I received them from my rabbi in Yerushalayim, Rabbi Yaakov Peretz, Sheikheh, and I am sharing them with you the way I understand the halachot in my own analysis and my own learning. Let's take it from the top, the very beginning. So what do we follow? How is it that our rules of Pesach could be so different than everybody else? And I think that that question assumes something. It assumes that the way you see Judaism on the street is actually real Judaism, and that the Judaism that are in the books is a fake Judaism. The Judaism in the street is exactly that. It has street Judaism. It's worth as much as where it comes from. The Judaism of the books is a long forgotten Judaism, to the point where sometimes I wonder if those people who call themselves Jews and claim to be observant of halakha would actually know Judaism or halakha if it looked at them in the face. We're living in a very interesting world where the things that are considered controversial are things that are explicitly mentioned in the Talmud, explicitly ruled into halakha by the Rambam, or codified by Maran and his Shulchan Aruch. Somehow in our generation, in this time, in this place, those things are considered controversial. And normally the argument has been made, well, times have changed. The way food is produced is not the same. The way materials are made are not the same. The way the world looks is not the same. For all those who claim to be so traditional in their observance, and who claim to not use this argument of they're not Reform. Yeah, not that I have anything against Reform Jews. They're Jews and they're my brothers and sisters like everybody else in the world. But it was exactly the ta'ana, exactly the complaint of other Jewish movements. Well, the times have changed. Get with the program. So, mechila from all of those, but we believe the times have not changed. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Torah, one of the 13 principles of our faith, was given to us on Har Sinai. We believe that in Har Sinai we received the Torah with a written law and an oral law that came along with it. And we believe that the Shulchan Aruch is just as relevant today as it was yesterday, and as much as it will be tomorrow. So what exactly is the Shulchan Aruch? Very briefly, Maran Rabbi Yosef Karo was a Sephardic Jew, Spain, Portugal, Turkey, ultimately ends up in Israel, and writes a book of halakha called the Shulchan Aruch. The way this is different than codes that came before him is twofold. First, unlike the Rambam's code, it doesn't include any of the halachot that are not relevant to Jews in exile. So, all the laws of the Beit Mikdash, and the laws of sacrifices, and the laws of Mashiach, and of kings, and of Sanhedrin, and all of those things are not codified into halakha by Maran, Rabbi Yosef Karo, because he doesn't need to. Because the Jewish people are unfortunately not in a state where there is such a reality of a Jewish state of Israel. Maran isn't just a great codifier of Jewish law, but something even greater exists because of Maran, and that is the goal of Maran to unite the Jewish people under one level of halachic observance. And to understand that, you must back up a little bit and understand a little bit of Maran's life story. If I was a Kabbalist, I would tell you that whenever you try to do something good, things always get in your way. So it seems like we're trying to do something good, and a lot of things are getting in our way. B'ezrat Hashem, we'll fly forward. Maran writes his Shulchan Aruch at a very crucial turning point in Jewish history. The Jews, after living in this beautiful era in Spain, find themselves thrown out of their home, thrown out of their country, thrown out of their connection with the king, and ultimately make their way into various exiles that all leave Spain and known as the exiles of Sfarad. Maran's rabbi, the Mahari Berav, at this point feels that there's so much tragedy and so much disaster in the Jewish community, so much upheaval, so much uprooting of who are Jews and where do we come from and what do we do, that he decides this must be the time of the redemption. And he makes a decision along with the great rabbis living at Tzfat at his time that he's going to reconvene the Sanhedrin for the first time in Jewish history since the Jews were thrown out of their ancient homeland. He was going to appoint the new Supreme Court of the Jewish people. Mahari Berav goes around using the Rambam's formula of collecting signatures from many, many, many rabbis around Israel and the world, and founds the Sanhedrin in Tzfat. And the first person that he ordains as the next rabbi, the first one to truly have semicha, have ordination from the Sanhedrin for the first time in thousands of years, is Maran Rabbi Yosef Karo. And Maran Rabbi Yosef Karo at that point in time is tasked with being the first rabbi to lead a united Jewish people together. This doesn't last so long. The euphoria of a Sanhedrin, of the redemption is coming, is shattered by what? By jealousy. By jealousy of Chachamim that were living in Yerushalayim. And they may have been correct in their claim, but this ultimately led for the downfall of our reconvened Sanhedrin. They said, how could it be that after so many years, you decide in Tzfat to reconvene a Sanhedrin? What about Jerusalem? What are we? We're not worth anything? And when the Mahari Berav sees that the rabbis of Yerushalayim, and I'm so simplifying this story that is really a complicated story. When he sees what happens with the rabbis of Yerushalayim, he says clearly the time has not yet come for the Jewish people to be united, and he disbands the Sanhedrin. But Maran seems to be tasked with a goal. And the goal is to unite Jews into one group into one nation, into one people, under one set of national laws. And if that means that some of us will have to give some things up, then others will have to give some things up, so that we can sit around the same table and eat together, and pray together, and learn together, and marry together, and celebrate together, then each one of us is going to have to be a little bit flexible. And Maran does something which is fascinating. He decides the three great rabbis that he cornered, or he pointed out in the previous generations, who are halachic codifiers of Jewish law, were none other than the Rambam, Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, Rabbi Yitzchak Alfasi, the Rif, and Rabbeinu Asher, the Rosh. The first two being Sepharadim. Rambam was from Spain and North Africa. The Rif was also Alfasi from Fez. And then you have the Rosh, who was an Ashkenazi, a French-German rabbi, who ended up taking a pulpit in Spain. And for the wars between those communities of Spain and France and Germany, especially Andalusian Spain, it's not within the scope of my conversation tonight, but you're welcome to go look those up in other places, and I promise you a very interesting read. Maran says, let's put politics aside, or maybe let's get involved in politics. And let's make one book of halakha that all Jews in the world can follow, Sephardim or Ashkenazim. And he makes a 3 out of 3 rule, a 2 out of 3 rule. Whenever there's a halakha, let's say, can I do this on Shabbat? The Rambam says yes. The Rif says no. The Rosh says yes. We go like 2 over 3. If all 3 agree, matovu manaim. If they all disagree with each other, Maran has to have a formula how to deal with that. But ultimately, we can get all the Jews, Sephardim and Ashkenazim, into the same book. Then we will have solved the problem that we're trying to solve again tonight, which is, can we get all the Jewish people to agree on something? The simple answer is, no, you can't. You cannot get all the Jews to agree on something. That seems to unfortunately be a hallmark of our people, especially in this bitter exile, in this galut hamar. Nonetheless, it is our philosophy and it is our approach that Maran's Shulchan Aruch is fitting for everyone. And none other than the Rama, Rabbi Moshe Isserles, who was in the generation of Maran. He has a letter to Maran, in which he calls him Nasi Elohim Betochenu, the Prince of God in our midst. He writes to Maran, saying, Chol hacholek halav, anyone who argues with you, ki cholek ala shechina, is like he's arguing with the divine God himself. And the Rama is in a tricky situation. It's interesting to note, by the way. Rama's rabbi was a stickler for Ashkenazi customs. And the Rama decides, Maran though is the Prince of God in our midst. And what does he do? He systematically goes through Shulchan Aruch, if I may share this story for just a moment. Rama was also writing his own Shulchan Aruch for many, many years. And at a certain point in time, he's about to publish his work, and he realizes just a few months before he publishes his work, that this Sephardic rabbi in Tzfat, named Rabbi Yosef Karo, he prints his book first, a code of Jewish law. If this was today, 2020, so Maran would print his book, the Rama would print his book just with an introduction about why Rabbi Yosef Karo's book is good for nothing and why you need his book. What does the Rama do? Because he's not from the cheap lightweights of 2020. He takes his book and he's gonez, he buries his book. And then he writes his letter to Maran. And he spends the rest of his life writing a Mapa. If the Shulchan Aruch is called a set table of laws for the Jewish people, the Rama says, I'm writing the tablecloth. I want to spread a tablecloth on this table. I just want to be part of Maran's book. And everywhere throughout Shulchan Aruch where he disagrees with Maran, or he records that one of the Ashkenazi customs are different than that which Maran mentions, he writes, Haga, note, we have a different custom. Note, we follow a different opinion. And Rama did something fascinating. Whereas Maran tried to unite the Jewish people under one umbrella, and maybe he was successful. Ultimately, Shulchan Aruch is the most studied book of Jewish law. I don't believe that Maran could have done it without the Rama. The Rama comes along, and he adds the Ashkenazi 2 cents to the story. And what happens? Now if you're Sephardic or you're Ashkenazi, you're forced, compelled to study the other side of the story. I, as a Sephardic rabbi, when I read Shulchan Aruch, see Maran with the notes of the Rama. An Ashkenazi rabbi can't just read the Rama on his own, he reads Maran with the notes of the Rama. And no matter which yeshiva you go to in the world, when we study halakha according to Maran and the Rama. Ultimately, my rulings, my style of my Beit Midrash is molded after that of my rabbi and teacher, And that is that we rule after Maran. We rule like Maran. But at the end of the day, the Rama is right up there with Maran, and we'll do our best to include the opinions of the Rama. Everything that happens after Maran and Rama, all the evolutions of minhagim, or the perversions of minhagim, if you like to call them that, where this is prohibited and that is prohibited and this is not allowed and we don't do this and halakha says that, but our custom is more important than halakha. I simply cannot deal with all of those branches that come out of a minhag, because law is law, and I'm doing my best to incorporate as many opinions as I possibly can in one place. I think that takes me to the next topic of conversation. So when it comes to Pesach, isn't doing more better? Many will quote to you different rabbis who said that on Pesach, all the chumrot, all the stringencies, you should do as many of them as you possibly can. Well, I'm sure there are rabbis who said that. It's simply not the truth. Our Chachamim, over and over and over, I wrote a whole chapter about this in Yehi Shalom, in the second chapter of Yehi Shalom. Over and over and over, our rabbis teach us, Kol hamosif gorea. Anybody who adds to the Torah is really detracting from the Torah. The Torah is perfect. Torah Adonai timima meshivad nafesh. The Torah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is pure. It returns the soul back to a person. It restores the person's soul. So now the Torah needs amendments. A man-made constitution needs amendments. A divine Torah doesn't need your help. It's beautiful enough as it is. It's hard enough as it is. Whenever somebody would suggest a new chumah, a new stringency in our Beit Midrash, Rabbi would say, well, you ran out of 630 mitzvot. You finished all of them, then now you got bored, you're looking to make new mitzvot. Why are you always looking to make Judaism more difficult for the Jewish people? It's almost to the point where if you would say today, Judaism is easy. They'll make fun. What do you mean Judaism is easy? Two people don't believe that. The rabbis who are busy making other people's lives miserable don't want you to teach a Judaism that's easy. And the Jews who are miserable in their miserable observance of a miserable Judaism get really worked up when you come along and tell them that what they're doing, it's not worth anything to the Creator of the world. They don't have to do it. Mi bikesh zot mikem, what does the Prophet say? Who asked this from you? Those who trample chatzerai, my courtyards. Who asked this from you? Halakha is halakha. Law is law. If you're on the highway, on the freeway, whichever place you come from, and you're driving, and it says 60 miles an hour, and you're driving 100 miles an hour, you're going to get a ticket. But if you drive 20 miles an hour, you'll get a ticket too. The law is the law, and we're not commanded to do more or less than the law. Minayin shekol hamosif goreach. Chachamim tell us, how do you know that anyone who adds is really taking away? And they list examples. And there are so many places. If you look in the vidui that we do on Yom Kippurim, some communities do in Shacharit, some do in Musaf. They claim that this vidui is written by Rabbeinu Nisim. That's already for a different shiur and a different time. One of the things said in this vidui, Asher timeta tiharti, Asher tiharta timeti. That which you said was prohibited, that which you said was impure, I purified. That which you said was pure, I impurified. Asher hitarta asarti, asher asarta hitarti. That which you said was permitted, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I prohibited. That which you said was prohibited, I permitted. It's the same thing. It's the same thing, just like you can't say that chicken is not a kosher animal. You can't say that pig is a kosher animal. Just like you can't say that pig, you could do shechita and it becomes kasher. You also can't say that once you do shechita and a chicken, it's not kasher. You don't have the right to add new things into Judaism that didn't exist before. All of these chumot, the only thing they're good for is hurting people, is driving people away from Judaism. We teach a Judaism that is so difficult. The mountain is so hard to climb. It's an insurmountable Judaism. And then we wonder why people leave. We wonder why people run from it. We wonder why people run away, because they look at it and say, this simply is not realistic for my lifestyle. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And not because I'm lazy, not because I'm bad, because this doesn't make sense. And the worst part is most of us who've been around long enough to remember grandparents or great-grandparents will remember that this is not the kind of Pesach they did either. And I did my job, and I went around to Sephardic communities and Ashkenazi communities alike, and I asked certain pointed questions. Do you remember your grandparents having 2 sets of glass dishes? No. Were they Sephardim? No. They were Ashkenazim? Yeah. So what happened? Since when did it become an Ashkenazi thing to need 2 sets of glass dishes? Do you remember your grandparents eating? Yes, I remember. So what happened now? When did we decide that we're better than the generations who came before us? My brother, should live and be well, was once sitting in a shiur, and he was talking to the rabbi. The rabbi gave a class about checking your lettuce for bugs. It's a new religion, by the way. Checking things for bugs, it's almost like a new Torah. Our Torah doesn't talk so much about it. Their Torah, though, what it talks about bugs. If only people were so careful about other things, like they're careful about the bugs that don't exist in their vegetables. What happens if a person eats a bug? They eat a bug. 7 biblical prohibitions. So what's the punishment? They give them malkot. They beat them. When do they beat them? In front of a bedin, when they had 2 witnesses who came to warn them. Stam like that, a person checks their vegetables and they didn't find any bugs. You think the goyim want to eat bugs? You think people in general want to eat bugs? They do their best then. So now you made a whole religion out of the bugs? And you drive us crazy? I know a lady, I can't tell you where. She had a bakery. Her claim to fame in her bakery was that she made certain cakes with strawberries in them. And when their hechsher in that place decided, the Vada Rabbanim, we no longer certify things that have strawberries in them. And they told her, listen, if you want, you can use artificial strawberry jam. And she tried. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months later, her store was closed. And she was out of business. In the name of my Judaism, you bullied an old lady who successfully ran her own business for 30 years? That's what you got from Har Sinai. That's what you learned in yeshiva. But I know that the cost of speaking like this is very high. And if you don't know, let me share you. And in the past, I've done my best not to share these things. And I mentioned going to Rabbi Moshe Ben Zaken's synagogue. This is the first year where I don't have to ask somebody to come along with me. You don't think I'm making fun. I didn't have to ask someone to come along with me as a security detail. Every year that I come to give the shiur in another city, I come with a person who's armed. Why? You should see the phone calls we get before Pesach. The emails we get before Pesach. Supermarket owners, kosher agencies. Last year, a group of rabbis wrote a letter to my rabbi trying to get him to revoke my rabbinic ordination. All these things he says in your name. My rabbi said, I never met a group of Amei Haaretz like that in my life. Avinu Rameses. So who do you think taught him all these things? We don't make these things out of the blue. But you live in a generation where speaking Shulchan Aruch, black on white, is considered controversial. Where keeping Jews Jewish is considered dangerous. Where allowing people to observe halakha exactly like their parents and their grandparents and their great-grandparents did is somehow considered a negative thing. To allow families to be able to get together. Listen, I'm not talking this year. Social distancing, I'm not giving a ruling this year. To allow families to get together and eat together and trust each other's kashrut, where that's considered a bad thing, I can only echo the words of the Yabbetz, Rabbi Yaakov Emden, who when speaking about the minhag of Kitniyot said, I wish my portion in the world to come should be with a portion of those who nullify this custom of Kitniyot. I wish that my portion will be among those people who cause such tremendously terrible things to happen to the Jewish people, like them being able to eat together and drink together and celebrate together and just be together. Halevy. There's a few fundamental differences between Ashkenazim and Sepharadim on Pesach. But even in this regard, especially the one that's most important to me, it's not Kitniyot. I'll get to Kitniyot later. The most important one has to do with purchasing food products that don't have a special Kosher-For-Passover certification on them. Maran writes in Shulchan Aruch. Maran says that if you buy salted meat or fish or cheese from the grocery, kosher grocery, before Pesach, and there was no special care taken, they didn't cut it on a special cutting board, they didn't use a special knife, they didn't have special white paper that said Happy Passover on it in blue letters, it was just regular cheese or meat or fish or chicken before Pesach. And by the way, it's salted, it's pickled, meaning it has some kind of processing done to it. Maran says it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference they didn't take care. As long as you don't know that there was chametz in this food, it's okay to use it on Pesach. The Rama interjects, hey, slow down. What if there was chametz? Our minhag is to wash this food off before we eat it. That's the difference. This major difference is what keeps numerous kosher agencies in business. Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars from families that they lose. Because what's exactly in your milk that you can't have it on Pesach? Someone sent me the eggs. The eggs, maybe the ink they used to type numbers on the eggs has chametz inside it. And if it did, let's pretend it did, your ink is edible. You eat the eggs, shells. Maybe the chametz gave flavor into the ink, and that ink gave flavor into the shell, and that gave flavor into the egg, and then what happened? What happened? Nullification of Chametz before Pesach is mutar. What do you mean you can nullify Chametz before Pesach? Even intentionally you can nullify Chametz before Pesach. We once had a couple that went out to do shlichut in Spain. They went out to Spain before Pesach, and they got there mamash 24 hours before Pesach. And they needed to cook and clean and make a seder for 100 people. And all they had was the synagogue kitchen, which was kosher, but not kosher for Pesach. And they didn't have time to start waiting 24 hours and blowtorching things. What does halakha say? They should go to the kitchen and make all the food before Pesach. All of the food. The soup they're going to serve by the seder, they should make it in the same pot that they make chicken soup with noodles inside of it. It's clean now. It's still a chametz pot, yes. Once you cook the food, it's already nullified in 60. Once it's nullified in 60 before Pesach, the chametz is gone. On Pesach, chametz is not nullified even in 1,000. But before Pesach, you're eating bread today, no? You ate cookies today, no? Crackers, cereal, toast. All of those things are chametz. How can you eat it? Because today chametz is not a prohibited item. Today chametz is like anything else. All the concerns that maybe chametz fell inside of it, it's a fantasy. It's a fantasy of Judaism. It's not real. It's not true. That's the reason why you never heard of such things before. Because Jews knew halakha once upon a time. Jews knew Jewish law once upon a time. So what did they tell me? You know, there's a list that came out that you're not allowed to buy the paper towels. When you buy rolls of paper towels, you have to throw away the first layer. V'chilama. Why? Because some of them stick the paper towel comes stuck. It's stuck together with cornstarch. Okay? And cornstarch is kitniyot. Walk me through this scenario. You take the paper towel, and now you're going to put it in your oven and eat it. You're going to microwave it and add it to your soup. What are you doing with the paper towel? Are you going to wipe your plate? Are you going to dry your plate on it? And then you're going to take it and put food in the plate. And then you're going to put it in the microwave, and you're going to taste the cornstarch in your food. Like, cornstarch is not chametz. Cornstarch is kitniyot. Even for Ashkenazim, don't insult Ashkenazim's intelligence. Even for Ashkenazim, kitniyot is not chametz, and if it would be okay with chametz, so corn it can be okay with. Where has the world gone? Where has the world gone? Last year, they sent me a picture from Yerushalayim. Kosher-For-Passover toilet plungers. I wish I was making fun. I wish I was making a joke. I'm not making a joke. This is the truth. Kosher-For-Passover toothbrush. Which world is my soap kasher for Pesach? I get that question at least 50 times before Pesach. Is my soap kasher? Today someone called me. Is there deodorant kasher for Pesach? Is your perfume kasher for... You eat your deodorant? If you eat your deodorant, you have other problems you have to take care of. It has nothing to do with kashrut. You have other people you need to talk to. Which kind of... they tell you maybe sicha, kishtiya. I know the arguments. I used to be a machmir once upon a time in my life. When I was a child... Don't laugh at me now because I'm not so old. When I was a child, and I was in yeshiva, the holiest thing, remind me please in just a moment about the sicha, the smearing. When I was in yeshiva, the goal was twofold. How fanatic can we make you? And two, how much can we make your parents? You know that your parents send you to yeshiva, they pay you tens of thousands of dollars to educate our children, and we have a desire to send back children into their parents' homes so these children can tell their parents exactly how bad they are and how not religious they are and how they don't really know anything about halakha, they don't know anything about Torah. That's how they raised us. One of the 10 commandments, one of them was missing when we went to yeshiva. And when I came home, I remember, my parents sponsored tonight's shiur, I'm asking mechila from them. My mother had olive oil, 100% pure olive oil. And I said, how can you use it on Pesach? It doesn't have a P on it. Today, if I could go back in time and just take a permanent marker and write a P on it, that little letter, I was taught in some crazy world that the olive oil somehow has chametz lurking behind it. That every food product on the shelf has some little piggy hiding inside of it. That every can of tomato sauce has cockroaches hiding inside of it. What kind of crazy world? I know those arguments. I used to be there once upon a time. I did teshuvah since then. Don't judge me. So they say that smearing things on your skin, it's like drinking. Why? The Gemara says, Sicha kishtiyat dameh. That smearing is like drinking. So therefore, if you smear a cream on your skin, and that cream has some kind of alcohol in it, and that alcohol came from chametz, then now you're drinking chametz on Pesach. It's taken out of context. And the original Gemara has nothing to do with Hilchot Pesach. The alcohol in your hand cream or whatever, your deodorant, is not edible in the first place. But like any business in the world, most businesses have to prove to you that there's a need for them. If a business has no right to exist, then why should it exist? If I can prove to you that you need me, that I'm providing you an indispensable service, then now I've got you hooked. And a few generations of Am Yisrael, especially in this country and in Israel, feeling that they can't do it right or left. They can't buy sugar without a special P on it. They can't buy water bottles with a special P on it. They make you a proof list. You can buy anything on this list without a P. And they list you soap and bleach and aluminum foil and paper plates. Look at yourself. Are you making fun of us? That's what you think we're that dumb? And before you think that I'm upset at some kind of kashrut agency, so is there a need for kashrut agencies? Absolutely. Absolutely. You need a kashrut agency in any restaurant, in any commercial kitchen where you're cooking real food. It has problems of bishul, has problems of Kemach Yashan, we'll talk about later. You need hashgacha in any place where they're slaughtering animals, chicken, meat, beef, lamb, whatever. You need a shochet and a bodek, proper people. Wine. Any place where there's wine. Any place where there's cheese. Sensitive ingredients require hashgacha like everywhere else in the world. But paper plates and water bottles, bleach and Windex, there's got to be a limit. There's got to be a limit. And so here's the Jew that I came to speak to today. The one who inside of their heart screams out, this can't be true. It doesn't make sense. But until today, people told you everything that you're just a heretic, you just don't care about halakha. I'm here to speak to you. And I wish to share with you simply the words of Maran, the poskim, our rabbis until today. That being said, let's perhaps start with the easy side. We'll get into things a little more technical in just a moment. You go to the store and you buy new dishes for Pesach. So I want to thank Liba for donating all kinds of special toys for me and props for our Pesach class. It's I think already our second year with all our props. It's so much fun. I never get to do this in real life. My kids have a whole set and I get to share it my own for Pesach. So you go to the store and you buy a new utensil. You buy a new utensil that's made out of metal. According to the Torah, anything new that's made out of metal that is bought from a non-Jewish source, so even if you bought it in a Jewish store, but it's made in China, or it's made, that thing must go to, the utensil must go to the mikveh. So if it's a metal pot or a pan, the rule is as follows. Anything that comes in contact with your food or is used with your food during a meal. So it could be a cooking utensil, a serving utensil. That would be, I made a list of those things. That would be pots. Let me read you my list here. Grills, skewers, cups, dicers, grinders, egg platters, silverware. So forks, knives, spoons, a strainer, blenders if it's glass or metal, pots and pans, scissors to cut food, baby bottles if it's glass or metal, which probably is not so relevant today, a water cooler or container, nutcrackers, hot water urns or kettles, bread slicers, ladles, toasters, salt or pepper shakers, again if it's glass or metal, fruit juicer, funnel, serving plates that come in direct contact with food, teapots or tea strainers. The rule is as follows. Anything made out of metal needs to go to the mikveh. Anything made out of glass, our rabbis added that metal and glass share a quality, that they can both be melted down and reshaped. Because of that, our rabbis considered glass a type of metal, and therefore those things must go to the mikveh as well. When plastic came along, there were chachamim who wanted to say, well, plastic can also be melted down and reshaped. And Chachamim said, "En anachnu gozrim gzerot midatenu." You can't make up your own laws now. And it's bad enough that we already immersed glass. Don't add plastic to the list. If only the rabbis were consistent in following that logic, that you can't make up new halachot, you might be in a totally different world. So let's talk about things that go to the mikveh. You would take a utensil to the mikveh. You would make a blessing, al tivilat kelim. You would put it in the mikveh, depending if it's 1 or 2 or 5 or 10. You immerse it in the mikveh. If you own dishes that you never took to the mikveh because you didn't know that you have to take them to the mikveh, you can still take them to the mikveh. You can take a dish to the mikveh so long as you're still using it. The sooner the better. And this year we have a little bit of an issue, because this year there are many people who are buying new pots and pans and new plates and silverware, and they don't know what to do because they're afraid that due to the coronavirus they don't want to go out to the mikvaot and immerse things. I am going to share that last night I spoke to Hava Peretz and I walked him through a few different scenarios. Everything that I'm saying now does not come from a medical place whatsoever. On a medical standpoint, please consult with your trusted local medical professionals. I am simply sharing on a halachic level. The ideal is a natural body of water or a mikveh, such as an ocean or a stream, a river. If you can get to that because you're afraid to go to the mikveh, you're allowed to go for a walk on the beach. Take your pot, put it in the ocean. If you're able to get to a mikveh kelim because it's open, but you're afraid, then you'd have to ask a medical professional about immersing something and how you clean it properly before you bring it back into your home. I don't know the details about that. If you're not thrilled with taking it outside to any body of water, there are 2 other options that you can do. Maran writes in Hilchot Shabbat, that in Tivilat Kelim, about Shabbat, that because you're not allowed to immerse a utensil on Shabbat, what do you do for that moment, for that short period of time on Shabbat? Is you can sell it or give it as a gift to a non-Jewish person who's not obligated to immerse the utensil, and then you borrow it back from them for a short amount of time until you're able to take it to a mikveh. If you have a neighbor or someone else who's a friend who's willing to own your dishes and you borrow it from them, you can utilize that loophole, even though I don't love that loophole. Maran does codify it as a halakha. You can do that. I think in the worst case scenario, Hava Peretz suggested that the prohibition of using a utensil, so the obligation to immerse a utensil is biblical, min Torah. The prohibition of using a utensil that was not immersed is only rabbinic. And therefore, if you have no choice, you can't get to a mikveh, whatever it is, you need this utensil. It's now what's considered a shat al-chak. Now it's considered a pressing time in general. The whole world is in a pressing situation. If you ever wondered what could be a pressing situation in the first world, exactly what we're in right now. This situation we're in right now is considered a pressing situation. You would be able to avoid immersing the utensil until a later point in time, which you would go use it then. It does not make food not kasher when it's cooked in a utensil that's not tavul. Rather, you just want to make sure that as soon as you can, after all of this passes, you remember which utensils you had and take them to the mikveh. I obviously prefer option number 1. Option number 2 is reasonable. Option number 3, you have to use your judgment, but it definitely is an option on the table. Nonetheless, I wish to reiterate a stance throughout the year. This notion that you could buy a utensil and use it once before you take it to the mikveh, someone made it up. I don't know who made it up. It's like any other information that's false. That's not true. In the days where you could take a utensil to the mikveh, you have to do it right away. There's no using it once before. This year, that's a special situation that I'm addressing this year. Mamash last night, I spoke to Hava Peretz about that. If we're on utensils, let me run you through your kitchen, because I think that the most pressing thing for most people is, how do I get my house kosher for Pesach? So let's start with your house. We'll move it to your kitchen. We'll talk about the different details of things that are inside of your kitchen. Let me run you through everything that is inside of your house. There are a few details, but if you'll allow me to explain to you the logic first, give you an equation first, you'll be able to plug in all of the things that exist, all the details in your life, and come out with the correct answer. So let me take it from the top, and I'll walk you through it. Chametz. It's prohibited to own chametz on Pesach. What does it mean, chametz? Chametz and se'or. Those are the 2 things which are prohibited. I've repeated it many times in my shiurim, so those from Kehillat HaShamayim in San Diego should already be experts. Chametz is any of the 5 grains. I've mentioned many times that I don't know how to translate those into English. What's accepted in America as the 5 grains are wheat, barley, rye, spelt, and oats. I'm not sure that that's the true list of the 5 grains, but let's leave them like that. Anything from the 5 grains, meaning water comes in contact with wheat, and it's there for more than 18 minutes, untouched, not kneaded, not braided, not moved, that food that is not allowed to be used at all. And therefore, that's considered chametz, and you'd have to get rid of it before Pesach. You could eat it before Pesach, you could burn it before Pesach, but it has to be gotten rid of before Pesach. Se'ol is not yeast. It performs the same function as yeast. It causes chametz to rise, but it is not yeast. Rather, it's a starter dough, a mother dough, if you like to call it. For those of you who are really into your baking, it's a sourdough that you start. You start another dough that you take a piece of it and you put it in another dough, and that's what causes the dough to rise. Sometimes they keep that dough in a very dark and damp place. There are generations of mother doughs. Se'ol it's not yeast. It's the real chametz, that's old chametz, that's making all the new things become chametz. Those two things you cannot own. Normal years, I encourage people, please do not sell chametz for Pesach. Do not sell it. You can eat it. You can burn it. Instead of burning, if you have large quantities of chametz, give them away. There are a lot of poor people that don't have food. There are non-Jewish institutions that need help with food. There are all kinds of food banks and homeless shelters. There are a lot of ways to get rid of good food without throwing it and burning it. It's not a good way to rid yourself of things by violating a prohibition of destroying food. There's ways to get rid of food. You have a cleaning help, or you have co-workers or employees. Give them a gift for Chag. This is your early Easter bonus. Don't say it for the Chag of theirs. Give it as a gift. Give it away. Don't burn it. But selling chametz is a legal loophole. You take stuff that's yours. It's in your house. You close it up in some cupboard. Hopefully you can close the cupboard. You put it over there, and then you go to the rabbi and say, Rabbi, sell all the chametz in my possession. Sometimes the rabbi doesn't even know your name. He doesn't have your address. He sells it to some guy. He doesn't know where you live. He doesn't know where your address is. You pretend like, hey, if he wanted to come to my house in the middle of Pesach, he could take whatever he wants. I promise you that if that non-Jewish man would come to your house in the middle of Pesach, you would call the police on him. And if you knock on your door, listen, I'm just here to take my chametz. And you say, let me in to take my cabinet. Get out, you need a warrant. I don't know what you would tell him. You'd scream at him, you'd call the police on him. This chametz is not really sold. It's a fictitious sale that unfortunately, in most years, I would tell a person, try to avoid selling their chametz. Nonetheless, mitzad din, according to halakha, it seems like the sale works, and Harav Peretz advised me this year that for those who are afraid that after Pesach they might not have enough food, they're afraid because they need to stock up even on real chametz, on breads, on anything that you can freeze or put away, to just seal them properly and to sell them. It's okay this year to rely. If you feel comfortable not to, you can. But if you're afraid, and I know that people have been asking me this question a lot, don't worry. Even in years where you regularly don't sell chametz, this year it's okay for you to sell chametz. So now you're preparing your house for Pesach. And it's important to remember the whole holiday of Pesach is that you are being free from slavery. Not to put yourself into slavery of cleaning your house for Pesach. If you listen to halakha properly, you need a day to clean your house for Pesach. Maybe even less than a day. Maybe even, I don't want to exaggerate. My mother is on the other line. I don't want to get myself in trouble. But avadim hayinu, we were slaves once upon a time. You're not slaves today. All chametz inside of your home that is smaller than the size of an olive, crumbs on the ground. If you would take a challah and crumble the challah and throw it all over your living room, there are people having heart palpitations around the world right now. You throw it all over the living room and your carpet is coated with chametz crumbs, you don't have chametz in your house. Because crumbs are not chametz. So you're worried about not being able to take your car to the car washer. Go to your car, clean out the car, take out chametz. You see some crumbs, you feel like vacuum it up. But you should know that chametz and dust are not the same thing. Chametz and trash are not the same thing. Chametz is talking about real sized, olive-sized pieces of chametz that are lying around your home, real food products that you have to get rid of before Pesach. And so, obviously, but I don't know how practical that is for most people. If your house is so clean already today or tomorrow, and everything in it is kasher Pesach, like the person who told me on Purim to be careful with mishloach manot because their car is already kasher Pesach. If that's the case, you cannot check your chametz with a blessing on the night before Pesach because your house is already clean. Rather, even for those of you who are cleaning your house for Pesach, I urge you to please leave one area of your house. A living room, a playroom, a kid's room, a garage, somewhere where you didn't clean yet, so that you can properly recite a blessing, a beracha, and check that room. When it comes to checking for chametz, you don't need feathers, and you don't need spoons, and you don't even need flashlights. You just need to turn the lights on, because that's the biggest flashlight you could possibly have. If you need an extra flashlight, feel more welcome to take an electric flashlight. Please don't burn your house down with candles and feather. Why do you need a feather? Feather so you could check in between the cracks and crevices of your mud hut that you live in. You don't live in a mud hut. What are you looking for? I always see every year with the feather and the spoon, and they bring it for me to burn it, the feather and the spoon. I said, your feather and spoon has never seen chametz before. Why do you even use it? Because the rabbi sold it for $20 by Mincha and Arvit, and you're donating to the synagogue. Fine, so keep the feather and spoon with your tzedakah box. That's your donation to the community. But you don't need it for Pesach. You need to make a bracha, and as soon as the 3 stars come out the night before Pesach, you begin searching your home for Pesach. If you have a business, you have a car, you have other places that you own, you want to search those places as well, and make sure that there is no actual chametz in your possession. Please make sure that you do not sell your chametz utensils. If you sell your chametz utensils along with your chametz, you put away your chametz utensils. But if you include them in your bill of sale, that means that when you buy them back, Motzei Pesach, all of your utensils have to go to the mikveh again because you sold them to a non-Jew and then you bought them back from a non-Jew, and because of that, they have to go to the mikveh again. It's a disaster. Don't do such a thing. Just be smart. Sell your chametz and nothing else. Let's talk about your kitchen. In order to understand how to make things kasher, and I'm going to borrow an Ashkenazi slang word called kasher. Kashering, to kasher something. In Sephardic Hebrew, we don't have it, l'achshir, but it doesn't work well in English, and therefore I'm going to borrow the word kasher for the rest of today's shiur. Chachamim tell us, from understanding the Pesukim in the Torah talks about the war against Midian. We go to war against Midian, and we're commanded, every utensil that we take as loot from the Midianim, everything that came through fire must be passed through fire. And everything that went through water, should go through the waters of a nida, which is where we learn the law of immersing utensils. The Ramban there seems to understand this pasuk differently, and it could be that he's right in that context. But our Chachamim learn essentially that Kishem Kebolo Kach Polto. Remember this rule. Kishem Kebolo, the way a utensil absorbs forbidden flavor, Kach Polto, that's how it excretes or lets out forbidden flavor. So let's use an example. This pot, put stainless steel aside for a moment. This pot was used to make chicken soup inside of it. Yes? Now let's make chicken soup with noodles inside of it. It's a chametz pot. Now you want to use this pot for Pesach. This pot is now considered chametz. Why? This pot is chametz because the walls of the pot have absorbed flavor from the chicken noodle soup inside of it. And therefore the assumption is that when you make tomorrow, you boil water inside of this pot water is going to taste like chicken noodle soup. Now you might be wondering, but it doesn't taste like chicken noodle soup. That's precisely because you're using utensils made out of materials that are non-absorbent. But don't let me get carried away before I even start the introduction. So Kishem Shebolo, just like this pot absorbed flavor while it was sitting on top of a heat source, a fire, and it absorbed flavor into the walls, if I want to get rid of that flavor so that I can make this pot parve, neutral, I'm also borrowing that term, in order to do that, I have to kasher it the same exact way. So what do? I wait 24 hours. Why do I wait 24 hours? Because after 24 hours, every flavor, all the flavor absorbed in this pot is considered pagum. Pagum means it's spoiled chicken noodle soup. When you leave your chicken noodle soup out for a day on the counter, you wouldn't eat it anymore. Whatever is absorbed inside of this pot is considered pagum. Therefore, every pot and pan in your home, every utensil in your home that was used in the last 24 hours is considered Ben Yomo. It was used in the last 24 hours, it still retains its original kashrut status. The moment 24 hours pass, according to Torah law, this pot is neutral. You can start over again. You can make lasagna in here tomorrow. You can make mac and cheese here tomorrow. You can make kosher for Pesach food in here tomorrow. Our rabbis make a gezerah. Our rabbis make a legally binding decree. It's not optional. And the decree is that because we're afraid that someone might only wait 23 hours, and then it'll really be a chametz problem or a kashrut problem, because of that, this pot will forever remain a meat chametz pot until it goes through a kashering process. That means 1 day, that means 2 months, that means 3 years, and because of that, we have to learn the laws of kashering utensils, even if things wait 24 hours. But the first suggestion is, always wait 24 hours since the last time you used your pots and pans. Now you're looking in your kitchen and you see all these pots and pans and you wonder, I don't remember the last time I used that. And there kicks in another rabbinic rule. The rabbinic rule is stam kelim, your average utensil, enam b'nei yoman, are not used in the last 24 hours. Think of all the pots and pans you have in your house. My wife is a minimalist. She doesn't like that we have so much stuff. Once my wife was traveling and her suitcase ended up in Greece and she was left without anything for a whole trip, and she was so happy. She felt free. If it was me, I would feel so decrepit and so paralyzed that I don't have things. I like things. She doesn't. You think of all those pots and pans that are in your kitchen, in your cupboards, in your garage, in the boxes, whatever it is that you have. The chances that you've used all of those things last 24 hours are slim to none. And therefore you can assume that every utensil in your kitchen that you don't know otherwise was not used in the last 24 hours, and therefore it's ready to be kashered right now. So how do you kasher things? There's a few methods. The first is called libun. Libun is things that were used in a dry heat source. So here's my greatest example. This is my skewer for when I'm grilling on the fire. Yeah, I'm flipping over my burger patties. This is not used with liquids. It's not used in a soup pot. It's used in the fire, directly in contact with meat. So now I want to use this for dairy, and I want to flip pizzas with it. How do I make it kasher? I wait 24 hours since the last use. I make sure that it's cleaned well. What does cleaned well mean? That I could resell it. There's no food stuck inside of it or grease all over it. And what do? I put it back in the fire the way it was used until it gets as hot as it was before when I was using it. So if that temperature of the fire, you want to make sure that it's hot enough, let's say, to burn your hand. Now people talk about libun and the sparks should be flying off of it. When you used it, it wasn't that hot. Please don't get carried away. How do you make your grill kasher lePesach? So you now know that you have to clean it well, and depending on what kind of grill you have, you'll know whether or not it's even possible to clean your grill well enough. Grills are very complicated. But to clean that grill, to put in coals or gas or wood or whatever it is that you use, and light up the grill and let it burn itself out once it's been clean and sitting for 24 hours. Most of the utensils that you and I have in our house do not require libun because they very rarely use dry heat. That's with one exception. Here's my handy dandy frying pan. There's a machloket between Sepharadim and Ashkenazim what to do with a frying pan. A frying pan is used on the stovetop, but sometimes it's not coated, it's not complete. Imagine your eggs. You put some oil and there's eggs. And that oil is only in some of the pot, not in all of it. And the question is that considered a dry heat or a wet heat? We'll talk about that in just a moment. That's the only place there's an argument. So you have libun, kashering things through fire or dry heat. You then have a level that's less severe than that. Hagala. Hagala is the most common source of kashering things. You have this pot, the pot that you use for chicken soup. In order to make this pot kasher for Pesach, you have to take it and immerse it inside of a bigger pot. So let's pretend my box is a bigger pot. You would fill the box up with hot water and immerse this inside of there. Wait till it gets hot enough and then take it out. And this pot is now in parve status. That's called Haggadah. What else needs to go inside of a pot of Haggadah? So imagine your ladle for soup. This would have to be fully immersed inside of a pot of hot water to become kasher because it is used inside of a pot of water. You have something called irui. Irui. Here's my pasta strainer. I love these toys. Liba, thank you so much. I have my pasta strainer. So let's give you a scenario. My pasta strainer is going to sit right here. I made some pasta in my pot. And then what do I do with the pasta? I want to drain it in the sink. So I pour it out into my pasta strainer. Was this ever in a fire? No. Was it ever on a stovetop with liquids? No. Did it come in contact with boiling hot chametz? Yes. But which kind of chametz did it come in contact with? With chametz that was boiled in a pot and then poured into something. This only requires kashering on the level of taking hot water that was boiled and having it poured on it. So this, for example, the strainer, or perhaps my bowls or my plates that get direct hot food put in them, the way you make them kasher is by pouring hot water on them. What about things like forks and knives and spoons and the like? You get the point. What about them? Do I ever use them in the pot? Maybe. It might be that you once took something out and ate from it. Maran writes in Taf Nun Aleph, in Seif Vav, I think, 6. Maran writes that you go achar rov tashmisho shel kli. You follow the majority of uses of that utensil. You usually don't use your fork not in the fire. You don't use your fork in the pot. You don't use your fork in the strainer. You use your fork with warm food, but on a plate. And therefore, this really, the koshering of it is very simple. And it's for that reason that I'm going to make a few practical suggestions of how you kosher the things in your kitchen. The utensils, like forks, knives, spoons, strainer, not a pot, not a pan, not a skewer. All of these things you can put into your dishwasher at home. Yes? You run a cycle if you want to clean them with soap, but assuming they're clean, you put the dishwasher on its hottest cycle and you let it run. And it will heat your utensils with water. And you'll notice, if you take out your utensils afterwards, they'll be hot to the touch. Those utensils are now kosher for Pesach on me. You don't have to worry. I'm giving you a shortcut. Why should you sit here with hot water and burn yourself and put things in and put things out? For the most part, you don't need that level of kashrut. Things that are actually coming in direct contact with fire, you could do two things. You could boil them in hot water. You could boil a pot, and you immerse these things fully inside of that pot. Yes? Or you have another solution. That solution is to take your oven and put your oven on the highest temperature it goes. Let's say 500 is most ovens, residential ovens. You take your pot, you take your pan, and you take your ladles, and you put them inside of the oven. And you let them sit there for about 20 minutes, half an hour, however long it would take for them to get red hot. Red hot meaning if you touch them, chas v'shalom, you'd burn your hand. And those pots are kasher lePesach. In the beginning, I thought that was my chidush. When I first edition of my book, I thought, wow, look, I invented the wheel. But I didn't publish it until I got Rabbi Peretz to agree with that. He agreed with it as well. And then later I found that Yitzchak Abadi in his book, All Yitzchak, discusses the same exact thing and says that it's okay. And therefore you can use the dishwasher to kosher the things of lower heat, like forks, knives, spoons, plates, cups. And you can use the oven to kosher the things of higher heat, again with the exception of things that are used inside of the fire mamash outside. Perhaps those things have to be koshered with actual fire themselves. All of this is for the very simple reason, Keshem shebul'o, because this is the way it absorbs flavor. Kach Polto, that's the way that it secretes flavor, it lets out flavor. That's going on a very big assumption, that the pots and pans that you have in your home absorb flavor in the first place. So let me give you a great example of something that does not absorb flavor. Glass. I actually don't have a glass utensil with me right now, but glass doesn't absorb flavor. Maran rules that glass does not have to be made kasher for Pesach. All it needs is hadacha. What is hadacha? Washing. You washed your glass last time after doing it for Pesach. You don't have to have a special glass for Pesach, for meat, for milk. I'll give you an example. In my home, I have a glass plate. Let's say the day before Pesach, I want to have boiling hot chametz in that plate. All I do is go to my sink and wash it with soap and water so it's clean. The next morning, I can have in that plate boiling hot dairy chametz. I wash it, I clean it. And that night of the Seder, I can have boiling hot kasher lePesach food in the same plate without anything being done to it. There are chachamim want to say, what about colored glass or other glasses? I can tell you for a fact that glass will not give off flavor into your food. You don't have to worry. I heard this week from a family member of Chacham Yosef that in his house, they had those glass plates that you may remember those olden days with the flowers on them and the colors in them, and he used them for meat and for milk and for Pesach and for kasher, and you don't have to be concerned with these things. Let me walk you through practically all the things in your kitchen and how you should make them kasher. Let me do this for you, and I'll do it slowly so those of you who are taking notes can write this down. You walk into your kitchen. What do you see? A refrigerator. How do you make your refrigerator kasher for Pesach? Answer, you don't. Why? Because I should have mentioned another rule to you. I'm talking to you about glass. Glass is a material that does not absorb, and does not give off flavor because that it's parve. Ashkenazim have a stringency, it's a custom, not to use glass for Pesach and for Chametz. But between meat and milk, Ashkenazim use the same glass. It's a new development in Jewish tradition, if I could call it that Ashkenazim have separate glass dishes for everything. All the old Ashkenazim use glass, by the way, even for Chametz and for Pesach. But those who were particular didn't use it for Chametz and Pesach. Rather, they just used glass dishes for meat and milk the whole year, the same ones. And then Pesach, they had a separate set of glass dishes that has to do with an Ashkenazi stringency regarding glass on Pesach. When I was going for my rabbinic ordination exams, Rabbi Peretz made me promise that I would teach us halakha. And whenever I would teach us halakha, I would say that on his responsibility, Ashkenazim can use glass for Pesach also. They don't have to worry. There's nothing halachically wrong with this at all. The question surrounds modern utensils today, like modern materials, such as stainless steel. For many, many years, Rabbi Peretz kept this quiet and told us always to suggest it, but to keep it under wraps and to use it in conjunction with other things. Last year, he issued a ruling to all of us saying that he's retracted that opinion, and he's now of the opinion that this must be shared publicly. Everything made out of stainless steel, pure stainless steel. So it doesn't have, I'm talking to you about other inserts or pieces. I'm talking about stainless steel itself. Stainless steel pots and pans and silverware and servingware, even if it's come in contact with hot chametz, does not require any koshering process whatsoever. You heard me? It does have to go to the mikveh, like metal, but it's considered glass in the sense that it does not absorb. You could try it. Go to the grocery store today and buy the spiciest hot peppers you could buy. Do your own test. Ghost peppers or habanero. I don't know. I don't need spicy peppers. So I have one serrano in a pot of soup, and for me, it's lasts me a lifetime. You take spicy peppers and boil it in your pot. Boil it. Spill out the water. Wash the soup pot, and then don't even wait 24 hours. Boil hot water in this pot again. Right away. Taste that water and tell me, do you taste the peppers? No. You don't taste the peppers? Tam, kikar, and halakha. Taste is what dictates the kashrut status of things, and therefore this pot is not absorbent at all, or even if it is, it doesn't absorb enough to make a halachic problem, and because of that, all of your stainless steel utensils, please do not kasher them. This is something that I never said in public before. I'm certain that someone is going to give me flack for it, but I'm under authority of Rabbi Peretz. I'm sharing with you the psak, the halakha, the maaseh. There are other poskim who hold this way, and something you should know, that it will save you a lot of work. Anything in your kitchen right now that is made of stainless steel, put it aside, take it off of your list of things that you need to make kasher for Pesach. In my home this year, we will be serving kasher le-Pesach food from our pots and pans that are stainless steel that were used for chametz on Pesach without kashering in between. And watch as all the people who were feeling so bad that they were uninvited to my house because of the virus this year now say, at least this year we're going to keep Pesach. Okay, that's your problem, not mine. Now, you come with your refrigerator. One more example, sorry. This plate. I'll give you a real personal example. Why go theoretical? Personal example. When I got married, my in-laws bought me sets of dairy and meat dishes. I pray that my mother-in-law will never hear this, because my mother, she'll be tolerant of me because she loves me. My mother-in-law, she also loves me, but maybe not as tolerant of my crazy shenanigans. So they bought us a meat set of utensils, a dairy set of utensils. For whatever sensory issues that I have, I, for the life of me, cannot use the meat bowls, only the dairy bowls. And for the life of me, I can't use the dairy silverware, only the meat silverware. So when I wake up in the morning and I want to have a bowl of cereal, I take a meat bowl, a dairy bowl, and I take a meat spoon, the same one I use for my chicken soup on Friday night, and I eat my cereal and milk in that bowl. And it took my wife a few months before her heart came back to normal activity. But the truth is that when something is cold, you can't transfer flavors through cold usage, and therefore, if this plate, which is a chametz plate, was used with hot chametz, and all you want to use it for is to serve matzot on it, cold, dry cracker matzot on it, this plate is permitted to be used, even though it's a chametz plate, for cold things. Do I suggest that you do it? Not necessarily. But you should know that halakha, because it will apply to many other things in your kitchen. Yes. So now, finally, to the refrigerator. You come to the refrigerator. When is the last time you cooked in your refrigerator? You didn't, because your refrigerator is meant to store food. Just like you store meat and milk on the same shelves in your refrigerator throughout the year, the same thing with chametz. If you feel, because emotionally it's good for you, that you wish to clean out your refrigerator, it's good once a year to throw some things out of your refrigerator. You want to wipe down the shelves because you feel like it, I can't stop you. But mitzad hadin, according to halakha, you don't have to. You take out all your chametz and you put your kasher lePesach things inside your refrigerator. It's cold. It's the epitome of cold, like your freezer. Now, about your refrigerator, there are many people who line their refrigerators with paper, or they go to... Those things are bad for your refrigerator. I'm not a refrigerator technician, but from what I understand, reducing the airflow inside of your refrigerator or your freezer can cause serious financial damage to people. I don't recommend it. So just clean your refrigerator out and put your kasher lePesach in. The same thing for your freezer. Next thing inside of your kitchen you're going to notice are your countertops. I sometimes come to people's house on Pesach. This year, I will be practicing not going to people's houses on Pesach, unfortunately. You come into their house and you feel like you walked into a UFO spaceship from another universe. You come in and you see reflections of you all over the place. The countertops covered aluminum foil. The sinks are covered aluminum foil. The refrigerator handles are covered aluminum foil. They didn't start the chumah yet of the ceiling with aluminum foil. Reynolds must have a commission on the deal that Jews spend on aluminum foil. And they cover everything with aluminum foil. The knobs, I once came to someone's house and the faucet of the sink was covered with foil, and at the end there was like a sock. They called it a Pesach filter. It filtered out the water from chametz that gets stuck in the sock. They didn't, but I'm drinking water from a sock. I couldn't for the life of me understand it, but you go to the house, it's covered with aluminum foil. What did they do before they had aluminum foil? Well, they just didn't keep kasher. What did they do? What did they wrap things with? What did they cover the counters with? Let's walk you through a halakha. Your countertops do not have to be kasher for Pesach at all. I don't care what they're made out of. I don't care which material they're made out of. Let me explain to you very simply. Let's give a worst case scenario. You have chametz, boiling hot chametz. What is it? It's a schnitzel, a boiling hot schnitzel out of the frying pan. So it's chicken with breadcrumbs on it, boiling hot breadcrumbs. And you put it not in your plate, not in a pan, not in a utensil. You slap it down on the counter. Why? Because you're a pig. I don't know. Why would you put it on the counter? You put it on the counter. Right here, a hot piece of chametz on the counter. And you decide to take your fork and your knife and you are eating the schnitzel off your countertop. I mean, it's time if you're eating from your countertop, you're using your hands. Yeah? You're using your hands to eat the chametz. And then what happens? You're telling me that within 24 hours, you're going to repeat the same scenario where some kosher for Pesach piece of chicken is going to fall on the same exact place in the counter within 24 hours, and it's going to absorb the flavor of the breadcrumbs out into your new piece of chicken, and now your chicken will become chametz. It's unheard of. You can't give me a scenario that is realistic, in which case your countertops have to be kasher lePesach. But Maran, I know the naysayers. Maran himself writes the Shulchanot that you have to kasher the tables and the countertops for Pesach. That's right. When Maran lived, they ate off the tabletop. The table was what you call a plate. What you and I call a plate, that's the table. They take the meat, they put on the table. They take the rice, they put on the table. They take the bread, they put on the table. And everybody eats from the table. But they also use their hands. It was a different world of eating. The table that you have is not a table that Maran had. The countertop that you have never comes in contact with hot chametz. And if it does happen by accident, it happens in such a way that it's not realistic that within 24 hours, kasher lePesach food is going to fall in the same place. But still, what if? What if? Judaism doesn't work with what ifs. Let's walk you through a few scenarios. You're assuming your countertop is made out of a material that absorbs and gives off flavor. What if it isn't? You're assuming that the chametz that was there was hot enough, and the kasher lePesach food that comes afterwards was hot enough to take out a flavor. That's an assumption. When you wash down your countertops with soap or with whatever cleaning agent you use, you are now pogem. You are causing the countertop to expedite the 24-hour. You are now making everything absorbed there, not having a good flavor anymore. As long as you clean your countertops, don't pour boiling hot water. Please, every year people get injured from boiling hot water they pour on their countertops. One man called me up 3 years ago, and he told me that he pours boiling hot water, and then he goes around with a rock and a towel and irons his whole countertop. And he didn't live in a home like mine. He lived in a home. His countertop was a mile long. And he's busy ironing it with a rock and a towel. How ludicrous can people get? If you go to someone's home, let me up the stakes a little bit. If you go to someone's home and you see that their countertops are covered with aluminum foil, you shouldn't eat there on Pesach. If you go to someone's house and you see their countertops covered with aluminum foil on Pesach, you should not eat there on Pesach. Why? Because clearly they don't know what Chametz is. And clearly they don't know how the laws of kashrut work. And if they don't know what Chametz is, and they don't know how the laws of kashrut work, how can you trust them that they know how to keep Pesach properly? It sounds backwards. The backwardness is thinking that those people are actually doing something correctly. Rabbi once came home, and he saw that his countertop was covered. He said, Rabbanit, what is this? Rabbi Peretz is no pushover. He says, what do you mean what it is? He says, did you do it because you think according to halakha you have to cover the countertops? Or did you cover the countertops because you like the way it looks? So she tells him, Hashem should bless the Rabbanit. This is not my Rabbanit, Rabbi Peretz Rabbanit. Rabbi Peretz says, L'may nafka mina? What halachic difference does it make if I covered it because I like it or because it's halachically required? And Rabbi Peretz said, if you think it's halachically required, it's not. I'm going to rip it off the countertop. But if you think it makes the house look nicer, listen, this is your house. You can do whatever you want in your house. He said, okay, well, I did it because I want my house to look nicer. And the countertop stayed covered. But the truth is you don't have to cover a countertop. And if someone does, it shows you brut, ignorance, when they cover their countertops. Now come with me to the sink. So now you have a sink. Now your sink, it does have the strainer sit in there and has your pots and pans sit in there. Maran writes that when you wash your dishes, you could take a pot, yoreh, and you could put a meat utensil, and a dairy utensil, and a chametz utensil, and a kasher Pesach utensil, and you could boil them together in hot water. As long as there's soap in here, it's pagum. Yireli, says Maran, it appears to me the halakha. What do you mean appears to me? That's the halakha. That you can do this lechatchila. You could do this ideally because none of it mixes prohibited flavors because of the soap in there. Your sink is not chametz. Because you don't cook in your sink, you don't eat from your sink, even if food falls into your sink, you don't pick it up and eat out of your sink. Your sink is a place where you wash dishes, and you wash dishes with soap. And yes, you don't need two sinks, you need one sink. And my fathers and grandfathers and great-grandfathers, skipping my parents' generation, who had only one sink, those who think you need 2 or 3 or 4 sinks, I know people have a mechitza, for real, between their sink. A divider between the meat and milk sink. They're shomer negia, they shouldn't touch each other. Ludicrous. Maran doesn't rule that way. How do you make your sink kasher for Pesach? I don't care if it's stainless steel. I don't care if it's porcelain. I don't care what your sink is made out of. Someone asked, should you put a sink insert in there? A sink insert is good for collecting bacteria. Aside from that, there's no reason to have a sink insert. Wash your sink out. You want to scrub it with a sponge and soap, matov u'manaim, and your sink is good to go for Pesach. What about your faucet and your handles? Should we play the game again? Do you cook in your faucet? Do you cook on the handles? Do you eat things off of your handles? There's a book that was written called, I don't remember the name of the book. It was questions that yeshiva students had in dormitories. What happens if they use the iron? They iron their clothes with to heat up a grilled cheese sandwich. Can they now heat up their Chinese food on it? If you're a slob like that, then that's how you use your material. So maybe you do eat off of your faucet. Most of us civilized human beings, we don't live like that. And these things are not realistic questions. You don't have to worry about them. Toasters. Walk you through appliances. Toasters. How do you make a toaster kasher Pesach? I don't know what exactly you're going to be toasting on Pesach. Let's say that a toaster is quite difficult. You have to clean it out well. And if your toaster is like mine, the $20 that I spent on it, you could just buy another one. Really, I don't know how you get in there and clean it. But let's assume you got it in there and you cleaned everything. You would have to clean it well and then let it run a hot cycle so it burns out whatever chametz in there, and you could use it to toast your matzot. I don't know what you'll be toasting in there. Maybe gluten-free pancakes or something like that. It could be. Your microwave. How do you make a microwave kasher Pesach? The answer is your microwave is kasher Pesach. There's a glass dish at the bottom. The glass dish at the bottom of the microwave is glass. It doesn't become chametz. For those of you who are particular the whole year, just make sure that it's clean. Because meat and milk fall on that glass dish. You'll notice, and you want to make sure that when you're microwaving food, there's no meat or milk together in your microwave. But the microwave itself, even if the food splatters, as long as the splatter is not there anymore, try it. Put your microwave on for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and then open the microwave door and stick your hand in the top of the microwave, inside of the side of the microwave. You won't feel anything because it's not hot. Because the way microwaves work are not like ovens. And therefore, microwaves do not require a process to be kasher at all. You want to be strict? You can be strict. You clean out your microwave, you put a glass of water inside of it, and boil that glass of water. It's like 2 minutes in the microwave. That's your stringency. More than that is already not halakha, and it's prohibited to prohibit those things. A microwave is kasher Pesach. I always suggest that for the year round, if you want to use meat and milk, you cover one of them, so the splatter, you don't have to worry. That's meat splatter or dairy splatter. But mitzat hadin, your microwave does not make things not kasher. Your oven, how do you make your oven kasher Pesach? Maran writes in Siman Kuf Chet. In Shulchan Aruch, Maran says that technically you can have kosher meat and not kosher meat in the same oven at the same time. You have to know how to do it. Depends how big your oven is. Depends if your oven has ventilation or not. Your ovens are big enough and your ovens have ventilation enough that you could do this technically. But l'maseh, for Pesach, even though I tell you you can use the same oven the whole year for meat and milk, preferably one after the next and not together, because when you do meat and milk together in the same oven, there are complications there. But you can use the same oven for meat and milk. In my house, I only have one oven. If both things are covered, it's not a problem at all. For Pesach, I suggest you clean out your oven, and then you let it run. Don't have to do a self-clean. In fact, Rav Yitzchak sent to me, Yitzchak Shem Tov, he showed me that there are a few houses that burned down in the past because people left their ovens on self-clean unattended. It could be dangerous. Please don't do that. Put your oven on the highest temperature it goes, 500 degrees, and let it burn itself out. They say an hour, I say even half an hour, 45 minutes, till the oven gets as hot as it normally would get, and then your oven is kasher Pesach. You can do whatever you like inside of that oven. What else do you have in your kitchen? A blender. A blender normally is made of glass and metal. Yes? Some people blend hot things in their blender. For those who blend cold things in their blender, you just have to clean it. For those who blend hot things in their blender, it could be that you want to put some hot water and run a blender cycle and let that run. But for the most part, if it's glass and metal, stainless steel, you don't have to worry about kashering your blender. If it's a low quality plastic and you could smell the stuff you made in there last time, it's probably correct not to use that blender for Pesach. What else do we have in our kitchens? Ovens, stovetops, your stovetops. Today you have an upside down world. They tell you that if you have a glass stovetop, you can't kasher glass. Because of that, you can't make the stovetop kasher Pesach. Lehefech. The glass stovetop is the best thing you can have. The glass stovetop doesn't absorb any flavors. Because of that, it's always kasher the whole year. The same people who tell you how to kasher your stovetop for Pesach, they use the same stovetop for meat and milk. So you have a meat stove and a dairy stove? I once said that, someone in class said, yeah, I have a meat and dairy stove. Please don't say that. I really feel bad for the people who make it kasher Pesach. Your stovetop, if you want to be strict, you clean off your stovetop, and then you run the burners, each of them, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, till they get very, very hot, and then your stovetop is kasher Pesach. If it's glass, you don't even have to do that. You just have to clean it. If it's metal, you should run them, let them burn themselves out. If it's a glass or electric stove, and then you let the stovetop go. You don't have to put any aluminum foil. The people who put aluminum foil on their stovetops, especially their glass stovetops, they trigger, they avoid all kinds of safety mechanisms that are in there to make sure there are no gas leaks or anything else in your home. And I ask you, please, have compassion on your souls and don't play around with appliances that don't require playing around with on Pesach. It's dangerous and people die from these things. What else inside of my house? Rabbi Yitzchak, you have any suggestions? What else is in our kitchen? I think I just went through everything in your kitchen. Pots and pans, like I said, just put them in the oven or dip them in another pot of boiling hot water. Forks, knives, spoons, those things, put them in the dishwasher. Your dishwasher. What about your dishwasher? Your dishwasher is like the big pot that you can boil meat and milk in it. So long as you run dishwasher, it doesn't make a difference if it's a plastic dishwasher, it's a metal dishwasher, whatever kind of dishwasher it is, so long as you use detergent in your dishwasher, you can continue using it on Pesach without any concerns. Your trash can, your trash is trash. You don't have to make it kasher Pesach. If you have a trash compactor, people want to cover that aluminum foil, you don't have to. It's a trash can. As long as your trash can it doesn't have big pieces of chametz in there, you don't have to worry about it. I think that's my comprehensive list of things that you need to make kasher Pesach inside of your kitchen. But toaster ovens, people always ask me about that. A toaster oven is like a miniature oven. You want to make sure that it's cleaned and you burn it out beforehand. Toaster oven means not the kind that pops out toast, the kind that looks like a little oven, a miniature oven. Anything else that we have? Your urn, your hot water urn. You only use it for hot water. It doesn't have to be kasher Pesach. You just keep using it. If you want to wash it out, it's a good time once a year to scrape out all the stuff all around it, fine. For the most part though, your urn is always kosher, the same with a tea kettle or an electric kettle or any of those kettles that you would use. Then I think that I went through everything on my list in my head. If I could walk you through one more segment, or maybe 1.5 more segments, I want to talk to you just about things that come from the stores on Pesach and a few minhagim. There's a minhag among the Ashkenazim not to eat Kitniyot on Pesach. I have a shiur online. It's a long shiur with a lot of sources, but if you'd like to listen to it, it's a private class. I'm willing to make it public for those people who want to hear it. It's called Kaleidoscopic Kitniyot. How one minhag started here as a snowball and avalanched into something tremendous that has made Jews apart today. Ashkenazim who want to eat Kitniyot on Pesach, don't bother me. I can't help. Yael Hochma used to say, I'm not going to stick my head in this war over here and decide for Ashkenazim they could do something. It's an emotionally challenged argument. If you consider yourself a Talmid of ours and you follow all Piskei Halachot like we do, and you feel like it's crucial for you to have Kitniyot in your life, obviously you could reach out and I will rule for you like I do for any of my Talmidim. In a general ruling, it's an old minhag. I'm not here to fight with it. I don't think that it has much validity in halakha, but I have to respect it as what it is. That being said, I'm asking you to please reconsider your stance on how severe Kitniyot is. You'll notice in my forum I write S for Sfaradim, A for all, and then SKA for Sfaradim and Kitniyot Ashkenazim. Original Kitniyot include things like rice and beans. Corn, for example, is a New World food. It's not really Kitniyot because they didn't have it in Europe to be able to call it Kitniyot. But let's pretend that today it's considered Kitniyot. Kitniyot derivatives, or even New World foods like soybeans or peanuts. From Moshe, how could a peanut become Kitniyot? Sesame seeds. Rav Kook didn't understand how sesame seeds became Kitniyot. They're quinoa today, they want to make it Kitniyot. All of these things don't need to be kasher lePesach because they are kasher lePesach, because they are Kitniyot, and even Ashkenazim who are particular about rice and beans are able to have things that might otherwise not be on that list in a regular guide. When it comes to Kitniyot derivatives, so rice vinegar, or soy oil, or corn syrup, or things like that, I'm not talking about the health status of these foods. It's crucial to know that many Ashkenazi poskim permitted Kitniyot derivatives for Ashkenazim. And I recommend for Ashkenazim that wish and are not afraid. I can't heal a person from the machalat dimayon, the fear of the imagination that maybe I'm doing something wrong. It's incorrect. I can't help you with that. But for those who are willing, I don't have to eat rice. There's no mitzvah to eat rice on Pesach. But at the very least, to say things that have Kitniyot included in them, but they're not the main part of the product, or they're not recognizable in the product, you can feel comfortable eating those things on Pesach. And that brings us to the world of food production. A lot of what goes on in the forum is, but how could this be kosher Pesach? It's not even kosher for the whole year. How could it be kosher Pesach? Don't you know that maybe it was made in a pot, maybe it was made in a pan? Based on all the halachot you learned today, you can quickly realize that machinery is not as problematic as people would like to make it seem. Obviously, stainless steel, you already ruled it out. It's not a kashrut problem. Things that were not used in the last 24 hours, and most things are assumed to not have been used in the last 24 hours, are considered stam kilim and Eno Ben Yomo. They're therefore parve. Chama Yosef writes about going to the marketplace and buying jams or jelly that was made in chametz pots, and you know you're buying it now for Pesach. Chama Yosef and Chazon Ovadia writes that it's absolutely permissible, because that is not a problem at all. So what is in a chametz pot? But the chametz already, it's before Pesach, it's already nullified in the food. You're now buying it, which means that it's batel, and you don't have to worry about it on Pesach. It's not a leniency, that's the law. The law dictates that this thing is considered kasher lePesach. All kinds of other imaginatory things like the starch in your plates or in your paper towels, I can't save a person from those problems. But to know that your food products, unless they contain chametz, don't halachically contain chametz. You must know that to be true, and that's precisely the basis that all of this rests upon. There are some things that have chametz derivatives in them, and you have to be careful, like different vinegars. Not all vinegars kasher lePesach. You want to make sure that you check. And that's why sometimes in the forum I'll tell you, hey, this needs more research. I may not have time, but if you could reach out to the company and confirm what kind of vinegar. If it's corn vinegar, then I'll say it's good for Sepharadim and Ashkenazim who permit Kitniyot derivatives. If it's potato vinegar, I'll tell you, don't worry, that's okay for everybody. If it's vinegar that comes from a chametz source, well, in that case, I can't help anybody. And that's true in many different situations. Rabbi Yosef was of the opinion that citric acid, which many people claim is a problem, even if it comes from a chametz source, has undergone such a process that it's no longer considered chametz, like gelatin, like other things which are mutar. And it's important to know that these are not leniencies, but this is the law. And for those asking for leniencies this year, I'm saying please don't follow leniencies. Leniencies means another deviation from Jewish law. Rather, return to what is original Jewish law, and then you won't have to look for leniencies, because you realize that most of the things that other people are prohibiting, they're prohibiting shelo kadin, not according to halakha, and you don't have to worry about those things. What else is on our Pesach agenda? I wanted to speak just for a moment about the flip side. For me, it's really important in life that we care about consistency. So part of being truthful is having integrity. Having integrity is being consistent. There are some people that crawl out of the woodwork Pesach time, and they just need a rabbi to sign off, hey, this is good for Pesach, that's good for Pesach. They don't really care about that. They just want a list of things that are good for Pesach. And there are those that do this because this is part of what drives them to be a Jew the rest of the year. It's precisely this kind of Judaism that keeps them Jewish. And they quickly realize that it's not about leniencies and stringencies, but rather about what is law and what is not law. I want to call out a shout out to the Persian community. The Persian community has been a dear friend by my side since the day I started teaching Sepharadim in California. But there's certain minhagim that I feel have been given up. And first, Rabbi Yosef Kapach writes that it's okay, you want to give up minhagim to fit in with other people, that's one thing. But there's certain minhagim that you give up, and you give up superior minhagim for inferior minhagim. There are certain things that we gave up as a community, superior minhagim for far, far more inferior minhagim than ours. One of those things that pains me greatly is something called Kemach Yashan, old Yashan flour. I want to just make a pitch for one moment about Kemach Yashan. It's very important for me. It's a few days before Pesach. I'm not worried about upsetting people, because if you listen to what I'm sharing with you, it'll be very easy to comprehend. The Torah says, "Velechem vekali vekarmel lo tochalu ad etzem hayom hazeh," that all the grains, the different kinds of grains of the 5 grains, you are not allowed to eat until this day. What is this day? It means that if you harvest flour, wheat, or barley, yes, and it's now December, until the first day of the Omer. When is the first day of the Omer? So we start counting the Omer on the second night of Pesach. So the first Seder, if you live in Israel, already the second night, it's over. There's no more Seder. But in America, the second night, everywhere in the world we start counting the Omer on the second night. Once we count the Omer, v'inif hakohen et Omer. The Torah says the Kohen waves the Omer, offers the Omer offering, and then all of the grains that you harvested in December, and October, and November, and January, all of those grains are now kasher to eat. They're called Kemach Yashan, old flour, because they've waited from the period before Pesach until the day after the Omer. How could you use those grains on Pesach? Because matzah is made from grains. You're allowed to use grains on Pesach. They just have to be grains that didn't become chametz yet. Which grains are prohibited? If you harvested your field in September or October, I'm not dealing with the harvest calendar. You harvested, theoretically, September, October, or in June or July. You can't eat those grains until when? Until Pesach comes around. You have to store them away and keep them secure until Pesach comes around. This law is not a rabbinic law. This law is a biblical law. It says in the Torah, B'chol moshvotechem. It happens everywhere that you live. Ledorotechem, in all of your generations. Our rabbis understand unequivocally, the Talmud, the Rambam, the Shulchan Aruch, all of them rule that no matter where you live, if there's a temple in Jerusalem, if there's no temple, if you're in Israel, if you're not in Israel, if these grains belong to a Jew, they belong to a non-Jew, these grains must be yashan in order for you to eat them. And therefore, all of those agencies in the world right now that are concerned with how could you use this food, how could you eat this, maybe it has cornstarch in a Kitniyot, maybe it has this, maybe it has that. What about yashan? What about flour? That in the Torah says you can't eat it? The cookie with your kosher symbol on it that you eat in December is worse, I'm sorry to say this, is worse than eating meat and milk together. You know me that I'm not a man of stringencies. I don't like stringencies. I'm not sharing with you a stringency. I'm sharing with you a consistency, an integrity. How eating meat and milk is only prohibited if the meat and milk is cooked together. But if the meat and milk are put together, it's only rabbinically prohibited. So if you take salami and you put it in a slice of cheese, that's like waiting for a heart attack. Forget kashrut. And you eat that in your Wonder Bread. The most problematic ingredient in that sandwich is your bread. Because the salami and the cheese are only rabbinically prohibited. The bread may be from new flour, chadash flour, and that is biblically prohibited. It would be better for a person to eat hot milk and hot meat and hot milk together than to eat a cookie that has a kosher symbol that's from the wrong season of the year. Here at Shiviti and Kehillat HaShamayim, we are not looking for leniencies. We are looking to follow halakha. And I feel the greatest difference for you who are listening to this shiur, the people who are going home and going to worry, what are my parents saying? What are my grandparents going to say? What is the rabbi saying? What is the community saying? What are the friends saying? I know what happens. Last year, a grandmother called me, and she was screaming and crying and screaming and crying. How dare I feed her grandchildren chametz on Pesach? Her whole life she raised these children. She came to the house, she saw them eating something that didn't have a pea on it. I cried with her because ultimately she was suffering. She was suffering from her inadequacy, illiteracy in Jewish law. It's not something we caused. It's something the people who didn't teach her halakha caused. They caused her suffering. We're here trying to fix that suffering. And the only way I can tell you is, we don't exist only for Pesach time. We don't exist only for telling you which potato chips you can eat on Pesach. Baruch Hashem, along with my wife, the Rabbanit, and the beautiful members of my Kehillat here in San Diego, and those Shiviti members around the world. Used to be Los Angeles, now it's Los Angeles, it's New York, it's Chicago, it's Florida, it's the United Kingdom, it's South Africa, it's Israel, it's Mexico. Every single one of you makes up a network, not of Jews who are looking for an easy way out, but Jews who are looking for the easy way in, for the way into a Judaism that demands from you integrity, that demands from you consistency, that demands from you proper midot and derech eretz to treat people correctly, that commands you to connect to the creator of the universe, but through his code, through his law, not to create new Judaisms, not to create things that send people running from the hills. But part of that is to make sure that we're consistent, that for 365 days out of the year, we're also following the Shulchan Aruch. I want to give you my blessing. I want to give my sincere hope that to everybody who's listening to the shiur, if something here touched you, if something here inspired you, I want you to walk away feeling you are not taking a shortcut. You are not cutting corners. You are not doing something that is incorrect. That is your Yetzer Hara trying to tell you, see, another holiday comes around, you're trying to take the easy way out. That is incorrect. Listen to your Yetzer Hatov. Your Yetzer Hatov says, where have I been for the last 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, that I didn't know these things? Where have I been? Where have I been that people didn't teach me these things? What are my kids going to grow up thinking that I send them to schools that don't teach them the truth about halakha and about Judaism? That's what you should be thinking about. And I want you to walk away from this shiur and join us in the Pesach forum, in the regular Shiviti forum, in any of our classes. Join us on a journey to learn Torah, to own your own Torah, to empower yourself to be really proud of the halachic, beautiful Judaism that is sane and balanced that you observe the whole year. I'm here to take all of your questions right now at the end of the shiur, but I want to ask one more thing before I go. I never ask for money. I know I have the treasurer of Shivitis watching this says, you should ask for money. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking. David Ben-Gurion once said when he was fundraising for the new state of Israel, he said, I don't want your money, I need you. It doesn't help if you send me millions of dollars to Israel and I have 5 citizens in Israel. I need Jewish people in Israel. I'm asking you the same thing. If you consider yourself part of this beautiful movement that is Shiviti, if you consider yourself having a connection to myself or to the Rabbanit, do me a favor. This is the greatest chesed you can do for me. Send me an email. Don't wait till tomorrow. Don't wait until another week from now. Rabbi@shiviti.org. Rabbanit@shiviti.org. You could send to both of us. You could send to one of us. Let us know who you are, where you're from, that you exist, that you're there. We want a personal relationship with you. We want a personal connection with you. We care so much about you and your families, and we wish for this Pesach to be a Pesach where you, hopefully without this virus in the world anymore, if it's not this Pesach, then it's the next holiday, where you and the generations before you and the generations after you can all sit around the same table and say, Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, how beautiful and how pleasant it is, shevet achim gam yachad, when brothers and sisters can sit together and eat together and trust each other. Because a Judaism that is educated is a Judaism that stops being paranoid, that stops being looking for problems everywhere. But it's a Judaism that says, wow, that's my uncle. I want to eat in his house. That's my aunt. I want to drink tea in her house. That's my mom. That's my dad. That's my brother. That's my sister. I want us some way to be able to connect the way that until today we thought Judaism didn't let us. If that's the Judaism that we can go down for, that's the only reason we came into the world. Have a Chag kasher v'sameach, a Pesach kasher v'sameach. It should be a holiday full of joy, full of redemption, and full of freedom. Freedom because you know. Freedom because you've been empowered. Freedom because you've decided today this is not the last time you're going to learn Torah. This is the time you're going to learn Torah, and you're going to learn Torah, and you're going to learn Torah until you come out a Talmid Chacham and Talmidah Chachama. You're going to come out your own Torah scholar, so you can light up a whole world of Jews who are proud and confident that their Jewish tradition is correct, accurate, and has what to offer the Jewish future. Everybody, I'm sticking.